chop all these siege tanks now. Those drones really desperately trying to run for their lives. There's Wednesday Night
vVv gaming.
The map. The MLG version of Antigua Shipyard does force cross spawns, so this is going to be interesting to see whether or not HwangSin does a little bit of cheese, or if RuFF does cheese, or both does cheese. Whose cheese is cheesier? As this game does get underway, Game 5 in a best of 7 series. Right now, it's Gosu up 3-1. RuFF with an amazing game on Metalopolis, and we'll see if he will be able to go through HwangSin. And this is going to be a game of epic proportions.
Yeah, we've got vVv RuFF spawning as the blue Terran in the western position here, and on the eastern position we've got it's GoSuHwangSin spawning as the red Protoss player. And I think it needs to be mentioned again, you mentioned that cross spawns are basically forced here on MLG. So RuFF knows he spawned in the western position, that HwangSin is in the east. And that makes it so that any sort of proxy play is going to be that much more effective. He can place those buildings that much closer to HwangSin without having to do any sort of scouting right off the bat. A lot of times cheese is just not very powerful. If you do have to scout some, we get a little bit of lag here. But the fact that you don't have to scout at all, you know right where your opponent is going to make it that much more effective. And HwangSin immediately is going to be scouting around his base with his first probe there, placing down that pylon. Really like that move.
Yeah, really smart of HwangSin to scout out and make sure that there isn't a barracks or a bunker or anything crazy happening inside his base. He did lose a little bit of scouting time, but going up against RuFF, you know that it's something you need to do, and we'll see what strategy comes out from RuFF as RuFF goes for a refinery first. Now, I don't know if you remember a couple of weeks ago, RuFF did play against Gosu on this same map. Gosu, a Protoss player, and I believe the spawning locations were the same as well. And what RuFF did was he did a double starport, double banshee play without cloak, and then used the southern position here as a remote repairing field for those banshees, and Gosu wasn't able to really defend against it. And we'll see if that's going to be the same strategy this time around, as gas first does normally mean you are going to go very heavy into tech.
And we have an immediate Nexus first here from HwangSin, so he's not screwing around. He is going for a heavy macro style here, or at least a two-base play. He's pretty famous for doing those two-base pushes and placing down that Nexus before he even gets his gateway. So maybe metagaming RuFF a little bit here, but we'll see whether he's able to get his economy up and running and fend off any sort of cheese play that RuFF might be going for. Yeah,
what's going to be important for HwangSin is if he gets enough stalkers, or perhaps even a forge for 1 to 2 photon cannons. Those photon cannons do attack quickly. They have superior range, but stalkers are really the unit that you're going to be looking for, as we now see RuFF going for that factory. He has not built his second refinery yet, but I do believe he will be doing so in just a moment if he does want to go into that double starport that I imagine him going.
Yeah, so we'll see what he's gonna have to send out an SCV or two here in maybe a few minutes here. He's gonna have to get it down his factory, and he's gonna have to start that second geyser as well. But we have 2 gateways coming out here for HwangSin before even his cybernetics core just now starting it. So he wants to make sure he's got enough zealots and early units to defend against any sort of early aggression here for RuFF. But RuFF hasn't really tipped his hand as to what he's going for quite yet. He's starting a reactor on the barracks here across the way. So interesting build. Can't say that I can really predict what RuFF's going for.
Yeah, he may be trying to go for Hellions, and this would be a really strange opening. The fact that if there is an observer, the observer is not going to spot this, and the fact that the Hellions will be coming from a rather weird angle. Now RuFF is probably just going to try to capitalize on the fact that he knows exactly where his opponent is. This is going to be a 16 Nexus followed by double gate. Zealots and Stalkers are now being chrono boosted, or sorry, Stalkers are just being chrono boosted out, and HwangSin with still plenty of energy on that Nexus will be able to add even more units to these numbers.
Yeah, and I feel like if he even gets just one sentry to get a force field on that ramp to deny those Hellions the ability to get up the ramp, you know, he could really shut down any sort of harassment here. He is getting out those Stalkers, and here comes the 1 sentry. So we'll see how many Hellions here RuFF goes for before he tips his hand. Looks like he's sending 4 at the moment. And WangSin is going to be taking the center watchtower. RuFF being very careful to go around, and he's microing these Hellions perfectly. And WangSin not going to see this coming at all. He's sending these units across the way. These Stalkers going to be out of position entirely. It's just 1 sentry and 1 Zealot back at home trying to defend. There's the force field, going to deny those Hellions from getting up into the main. And now trying for a surround with these probes. The Hellions doing a ton of damage, already taking down a number of probes. 8 workers have gone down, and there are more on the way, lining them up for WangSin. No more force fields. 1 Hellion does go down. 3 more still here doing their best on these probes, and these Stalkers finally going to be coming home, trying to clean these up, but not before a lot of damage is done by RuFF.
Yeah, RuFF just doing a great job taking down plenty of workers, 17 workers killed, and now we are at 25 compared to 22, as how RuFF was able to micro in that engagement, I'm not quite sure. But really a lot of workers killed, but WangSin does have that second Nexus up, so he will be able to replenish those units much more quickly. And RuFF perhaps a little bit upset about the lag, but we'll see what can come of this in just a moment.
Yeah, when you do a build like that and you've got those 4 Hellions, really you're needing those to do a lot of damage. Lag can definitely be frustrating, because it seemed like we were lagging a little bit earlier, and then the lag just kicked in right when he was trying to micro there. But a nice surround there with the probes by WangSin. He's able to limit the damage that RuFF was able to do. And now RuFF coming in again with another 4 Hellions. He was able to immediately focus down some important sentries. So really making it so that WangSin is not able to mass a lot of sentries here. It can be a very powerful unit against any sort of Marine and Marauder play in the mid game here. But RuFF looks like we'll be going for regular bio play, working off of 3 racks at the moment, and it's going to be coming out with medevacs as well, still not showing any signs of expanding.
Yeah, this is really strange. WangSin's going to take a look around, and he's going to try to figure out what his opponent is going, and he's not going to spot the reactor and the starport. WangSin just looking around, trying to figure out where exactly the factory is, where the reactor was. Perhaps he thinks it was in the center at this time. But as soon as medevacs start joining in on this fight, I think WangSin's going to have a very nasty surprise. A command center finally being built by RuFF. There is a group of Marines. Stim pack has already been completed. Combat shield is now being researched as mass Marines in order to try to counter, but we are going to have Hellions now being built straight inside the base, and WangSin does not see this.
Yeah, so let's talk about, so far RuFF has lost about 8 Hellions, and if you bring up the units lost tab, you can see that it is 8 units, 800 resources, so just lost those Hellions, as WangSin going to spot this factory now with the probe and the pylons here. And WangSin has actually lost 21 workers, 1,500 resources, so RuFF is definitely ahead in units lost, but the fact that WangSin went for that Nexus first really makes it so that he can absorb those losses, and RuFF's expansion is going to be so late here. These guys are still pretty even in this game. Yeah,
what's going to be important is that the combat shield will be ready in just the right amount of time. It's going to be a mass Marine army against a lot of sentries. WangSin does not nearly have as many sentries as he would like, only down to 4 at this point, as a couple early sentries were taken down by those Hellions. You can see the Marines making their way across the field. How much damage are they going to be able to deal before that one Colossus does come out? Hellions are being trained straight inside the base to try to bait away units, as we are perhaps going to have a drop straight up, or an elevator drop into the base in just a moment. Are we going to have an elevator drop? Not quite sure.
Yeah, we had a stim there, and RuFF wasn't able to do anything with it, so not quite sure what he's doing here. He just used a lot of energy. Another stim, and again, he's not really engaging with these Marines very well. And as you mentioned, that Colossus is about to come out. It's going to be the perfect counter to just this mass Marines. Number of force fields do go up, making a lot of those Marines susceptible to those Zealots in the front. We get a pickup, and now a drop here. The range units of WangSin not able to quite hit those medevacs, and just doing their best to clean up these Marines. The Colossus coming out already with 4 kills, going to be able to clean up these units, and now if he had Blink, he would be able to take down that medevac, but the medevac will be able to escape with those 8 Marines, so not able to do a lot of damage there. He knows that the Colossus already out, and we have Vikings coming out straight away from RuFF, so WangSin is basically building on his lead and just defending any sort of pressure which RuFF is going for.
Yeah, right now I would have to give the advantage to WangSin right now. He does have a food advantage. He has the worker advantage. And now an army is making its way across the field. There is a lot of sentries, colossi, and even a probe to add in that proxy pylon. One Marine going to see this rather large army outside the front door and get taken down, and there's not much here to really stop this. This is not looking good. The army technology difference is absolutely huge, and also army size. The observer knows what's going on upstairs and just going to simply engage here in just a moment.
And if he's able to focus down these Vikings, down go 2 of them, a stim, not going to be very effective as well. A number of force fields, not great force fields, but they're going to keep those Marines at bay. And the stim is about to run out with those Marines, so they won Colossus here. If WonSin is able to micro it already with 7 kills, RuFF's going to have to pull SCVs and Marines here and try to focus down the Colossi, and there's just 2 right now. So WonSin getting more and more powerful. It's 122 to 80, and I feel like this is going to be the end for RuFF. Yeah,
I think RuFF in just a lot of trouble. 40 food behind. The Manor Nexus now being warped in. Pretty much saying, yeah, not much that you can do about this. And it's pretty much well known that RuFF is in trouble. And SCV's trying to win the war themselves. WonSin adding a second Nexus, adding insult to injury. Let the trash talk begin after this game. I know a lot of talk is going to go whether or not the lag made any real difference, and as RuFF loses this orbital command.
Yeah, no cancel there on that Nexus, so WonSin just giving away minerals at this point, continues to throw down his Nexus, and RuFF doing his best to fight back here, but he really has no answer for the Colossi, as a nice force field goes up there, really limiting the surface area that RuFF's able to get, and RuFF dropping outside of his base with a number of units here, but I really can't imagine that he thinks he's still in this game. The SCV is basically going to their death now, and 3 Colossi out, and just more and more reinforcements coming for WonSin. 124 to 50. RuFF's gonna have to GG out of this one any moment now.
Well, if we know anything about RuFF really likes to fight to the last man, and I think he's going to be doing exactly that. Marauders and the Marines going to finish off this Colossus over here. Viking going to join, pass by, take it down, and now these medevacs are going to make their way into the main base. But I don't think WonSin has much to worry about. He's going to be warping in a Nexus straight inside his opponent's base, and he has so many Nexuses that Nexus that he's going to be able to start replenishing those probes rather quickly.
Yeah, 132 to 39. So RuFF's going to try to kill WonSin and a little bit of a base trade here. But WonSin does have a defensive Colossus here, and it's able to focus down a lot of those units. And there's RuFF with a little bit of BM before the eventual GG. And as you mentioned, the lag is being blamed there, or at least mentioned a little bit. But WonSin and Gosu, very, very strong. T-Gun, I think, gave us some great games. That game on Metalopolis with RuFF and T-Gun was a fun one as well. And then WonSin lowering the hammer on vVv Gaming and vVv RuFF here, making it 4-1 for its Gosu on Wednesday Night Starcraft.